All right. Hello, everybody. We are live once again, and I am joined by my buddy Niki, who just put himself on mute. Oh, he's off mute. Dude, how are you?
Nah, I'm messing with you.
When you do it on purpose? Okay,
Of
it's
course
fine.
I did it on purpose. Like, come on.
No, so we were literally just like up until like a minute ago working on the code for this stream because we want to do the best thing and we also live on the edge and we want to be a bit prepared. And
That's
so
one way to say it. We just
let's
started
say it
5
like
minutes
that,
ago. Come on.
right? So, Nikki, why do you want to maybe try to explain what we're going to do today, and then see if I
Sure.
think the same thing? Because we
Yeah.
both tried for this. So you go first.
True. All right, perfect. First of all, hi people. If you don't know me, my name is Nikolai or Nikki, or feel free to improvise with any other variation of the name. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Um, Basically, the idea for today was to kind of go over a scenario that we keep hearing in with our customers, right? And this is basically how do we go about a system where we have a gazillion images and we constantly re-upload them because we just can't find the right one to reference, or
Yeah.
how do we structure our images and assets at the front end so we can get some kind of a categorization, right? And there are many different ways you can go about it, but since we are like the whole world actually is on a type of an AI vibe,
Oh
why not
yeah.
just use AI to do that, right? We can
We
just
are on the AI vibe train today.
e- exactly. So let's use AI to classify
Is it
our images.
actually AI or is it buzzword AI? I think it's proper, or could it be machine learning or something?
It's funny because the first time I saw the system that we're actually going to use today was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there you
Back
go.
then, AI wasn't that big, so I'm gonna say it's probably machine learning. But again,
Who
don't hold me to that.
cares if it
Who
can
cares? It
detect
works.
something in a picture?
It
Like, so
works.
let me just quickly share my screen to show you a tiny demo. So, in a few streams before this one, we actually worked on the stock library starter because we did all these things with assets. And so I've expanded on that project to actually add these tags here, right? So when I go to a page that shows you this lovely kitten, you can also see that it has these tags. I didn't add these tags at all. The AI system did. And then when you then click on one, now there's like a tag page where you can see all the cats that have that specific tag, right? And so this one is cat, but we also have a picture by Nikolai, that has to run a little bit. And this one actually has Canyon on it, but there's only one with Canyon. So the way we've done it now is we really want everybody to be like hands off. You shouldn't have to add these tags yourself unless you, of course, want to, right? And so in our modern time, we figured out, or Nikki actually figured out, we can use something like Imaga. So, Nikki, you know these guys, right?
Well, let's say I do. Like they're actually a Bulgarian company where I live,
That's
so
awesome.
they're pretty close to home. Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, like they were like I don't know exactly when they were founded, but I heard about them first time in 2015.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much established on the market. I know that a lot of companies are actually using them, so they are pretty stable.
Yeah.
And
That's
again,
cool.
AI tagging is just one of the things they do. They have a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You can see visual search, facial recognition, not safe for work. So they would blur
Yeah,
out like faces and things like that. That's pretty cool. So, of course, we're using the tagging. And I made an account and it's free and it just worked like that. It's pretty crazy
easy as
that
that.
sometimes these things are like, there's not much you have to learn about this system. It kind of just works. So the way we figured out how this should work is I want to upload an image. And then when I see that image after the upload, it has the tags because this Imaga system gave us these tags and it got updated into Hygraph. But how do you do that without having to like manually type these tags?
Yeah,
And so
it's
what do you think, Nikki? What are a few ways you could do this?
it's well, I mean the most used use case you're going to see out there is pretty much a black box type of an approach, right? You give it an input, basically the image, and then you get an output as the tags that you're going to be using, right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly what we're doing with Tamaga now. They pretty much have the API that accepts
Yeah,
a
you see.
URL of an image. You don't even have to upload it there. and they
Yeah,
just
you just
open it
give
to
it the
that.
URL, it reads it, and then adds, well,
Exactly.
back a list of tags. And before we go on, I'll show you the schema of our asset. It's literally an alt tag, which is used as the title. And then there's this tags thing, and it's literally just a single text line where you can have multiple values. So it becomes
Yeah,
an array of text things, which is this,
pretty much.
right? And so we've now built it. When you upload an image, this is automatically filled. And so let's talk
Wait,
about how we do that, right?
yeah. How do we actually tag it? Like, what's the workflow there?
Um, I wish I could show you this in our new studio, but of course it's still in beta, so it doesn't have this. But let's open it in our classic interface. So we are using webhooks to make this work, and so we have a specific webhook that calls this imaga endpoint. And if we hit edit on that, you can see we're basically firing. Uh, Wait, before I dive in, Nikki, what is a webhook? Because a lot of people have different ideas about that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of companies have different ideas about that too
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
So let's talk about it in terms of what a webhook is in Hygraph, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
the most, like, I don't want to say wholesome, but basically wholesome way to describe it is a
Holes.
webhook is a wholesome way to describe it. This is a weird adjective for a web. Doesn't matter.
It's
Doesn't
fine.
matter. It's fine. A webhook in Hygraph is basically a way to integrate the system with something external as an outgoing stream of data, right? Think of it as notifying some system out there that something happened in Hygraph. You can use that for many different things, like starting a build, logging a ticket somewhere because somebody published something,
Yeah.
or in this case, when you upload an asset, you notify an AI system that it needs to actually tag that asset, right? It's
Hello.
basically a way to notify something external of Hygraph that something
Yeah.
happens in the data in Hygraph.
Yeah. So in this case, when the content model asset is involved and it's set to a draft, and you create or update that asset, and it comes from a project member or the public API,
Yeah,
Hygraph as a server will call a URL with a bunch of information that's in a post, and then that URL accepts that and does something with that information. It's
correct.
basically just like almost like sending an email with a payload, and the person who receives that does something with that. Could we say it like email?
Pretty much, yeah.
Maybe a bit. It's basically just two systems talking to each other, and the only way to do that is, well, in this case, is a webhook.
I mean, technically speaking, it's more like a UDP type of a thing because Hygraph sends the webhook, and the idea is that we don't really care what you're gonna do afterwards. Like, it's up
True.
to you.
Yeah, exactly. It just sends something to an endpoint. And so,
Yeah,
interestingly, when we upload an image, it's sending a bunch of data to this URL. And this is actually, you can see it's on Vercel. This is a Vercel serverless function that listens to a post and gets information from its body and then does something. And that's something we're going to build today. Well, we have built it. So let me just show you in a demo how it works. And then we'll build it again to show you what that would mean. So we're going to go into the nerd zone for a second. This is going to be fun. You can see me writing backend code while Nikki, the actual backend developer, just sits there and laughs at me when I struggle. It's the fun part of streaming, right?
dude, it has been a while since I've been an actual backend developer.
Don't say these things. Okay, the steps are I'm going to upload an image. Then we're going to look at the logging of our system in Vercel, so we can really see what's happening. And once the logging is done, we're going to go and see the assets. And then we can also see it on the website, actually. All right, so let's upload. And of course, I have a folder with cats. Which one do we want? This one. So this is my cat. He's called Titan. And here he was very small, but now he is Titan size, by the way.
If you get Titan as a smart tag, I'll really be impressed.
Oh, that would be so fun. Okay, so now this upload is done. It's in draft mode. So let's have a look. This always takes a second to update itself, because the Vercel logs have a delay because we're using the free tier. I might have to. refresh.
There you
This
go.
could be it. Yes, it is.
That's probably it.
This is my
Yeah.
time. This is fresh. So we updated the text. We found the image. We gave it to Imaga, and then it gave us back a whole bunch of things, with from fluffy to pets to adorable to curious, furry, all the things. And then it was applied. So, well, let's have a look when we actually open this. Here are our tags. So it's filled it out. So that's super cool. By the way, are we now? Oh, we're
What
not in
happens if you
studio.
want to add a manual tag?
So I'm going to add Titan to the list because it is Titan. The thing is, we now did an update. So when I hit save, it's going to be actually firing again to Imaga. So let's see if
Yeah.
that actually is coming in.
Will that kind of overwrite your tag
It,
as
sh- it
well?
shouldn't, because that's how we coded it. Oh, I'm just going to refresh.
Through the magic of being prepared, you mean?
Okay, so this is again found the same things. Let's refresh this one. And it didn't
There
overwrite.
you go.
So that's cool.
Nice.
And let's go actually back to studio because that looks a little bit more lovely. Where is Titan? Here.
There you go.
So there it is. So
Nice.
and we'll check in a second because we actually posted to, like, it gives back a lot of text and some are closer than others, and it gives you an approximation in a percentage, like a 0 to 100. And so I think in this code I'm only grabbing everything above 70. So, and then of course, let's refresh the page here. Okay, this is not showing because I'm querying published content rather than draft content. So when I actually hit publish on this image now, and I didn't add a title now, so maybe, no. Of course, in the future, this can also be done with AI. Just a lovely description. Now when I refresh, there's Titan the cat by Tim and Niki. This is the resolution. And then it found all these tags. And so now it kind of just works in the system. And so this is pretty cool, right? We didn't do much. We just, like, it felt like it takes long because these logs just have a 30-second timeout. Like, only now I can see them. But essentially, it just happens the moment the image is on there, it just works. So I think it's time to code something. I see we have a whole bunch of viewers. If anybody has a question on other ways of doing this or some opinion, please share it with us, and then we can actually talk about it or code something differently, however you want. So how about we go into some code?
Let's do that. But first, let's actually disable the webhook that we now have so we don't have a cushion to fall into.
Yeah, that's smart. Okay, so we have to go back to classic for that, but that's all good. So how do I disable this? Hey, that's nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we're now not active. So let's just have a look in our code. And, well, I'm just gonna, kill the whole thing. What, before I kill the whole thing, let's have a look. There's a few things we need that I'm not gonna retype. Like, especially those two. Let's keep those two, and the rest we remove.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's a few things we're gonna need. Well, there's some functions here, and I'm gonna keep that type, and I'm gonna keep this just for the people, so we don't have to retype that stuff. And if we keep stuff, let's just talk about what that actually means. So we use a GraphQL client called GraphQL Requests, which is just a super nice way to query stuff in GraphQL. It has a bunch of helpers, so you can make a new client, and that client can send requests. And then we have a Hygraph endpoint and a Hygraph token. And let me show you where you get those.
Wait. Why do you need a token, though, in this case?
You're so prepared. Good questions, my friend. So because we are actually mutating something in our code, we're getting the tags from Imaga, and then we have to update something in Hygraph. That means we are writing to the system. So we need to make sure that we're allowed to actually do that. And that's why we have that.
That actually makes sense. A lot of
That's
sense.
it now. How about that? Let's go back to our studio. So in the project settings, you can see we have an out token that we're using here. And there's a public content API that's just open, and we have an endpoint that we query to, which is our high performance. And so we're using the high performance endpoint and that token. So we now know that Hygraph knows if we post to this with this GraphQL client, that it's allowed to do that. And we do get stuff and we do post stuff with it. And so there's a bunch of stuff that you need from Next.js in its server setup. And so you can actually do responses. And so this one is all about post, right? Because what we get from the webhook has a lot of data to it. Like there's a whole body and a lot of JSON stuff. And so that's much easier to do that by a post because you have a post body. So we're doing it all in post. And if you get to this API, we just say, go away. Let's see if that works. It says, go away. We're not doing a get. Everything has to work with post. All right, so of course, right now it's returning something like, hey, it worked, but like we haven't done that code at all yet, right? So there's a few things we need to do. First, we need to accept the data from that webhook. Then we need to query from that webhook information our image in Hygraph. And then from that image in Hygraph, we get a few things that we need to be able then later to mutate it with the things we get from Imaga. Right, and so let me just open this one in a new folder. How do I do that? I don't want to drop it in the editor. I just want to have it as can we do this? You were able to just
like a sidebar.
You were able to do a separate editor now, right? Didn't they make an update?
You should be able to.
It's interesting.
If you give it a right click, can you open it in a new window?
Open to the side, open with, reveal in Finder. Interesting. I'm just going to do it like this. Of course, it's going to be smart and open the same thing. If anybody in the chat knows more, please help us. What I can do, though.
Yeah, you can go there with the terminal and just do code, whatever.
Then it opens the same thing again. It's really clever.
No, you need to go with code and the name of the file, and then it should open it in a new. Or that.
Oh yeah, let's try that. Holy moly! I thought we were prepped. Okay, so what are we opening?
Not that prepared. The file.
What is the file? App.
Slash. There you go.
And now it opened the same again. It's really clever. Very, very clever. Here we go.
There you go.
Okay, we lost like way too much time on that silly stuff. All right, so what do we need to do? I'm just going to look at my homework a little bit. So what we first need to do is we kind of have to, get the information from that post. And we just need the image ID. And so let's see how I've done it in the other one. So we have a function called update tags, which makes sense. And update tags are going to do all the things. And we're just going to need an ID. And from this, we should do all the stuff, right? So what we want to do is first, let me just write it down. We're going to have to get the asset by ID. And then from that, we have a bunch of information. Well, we're going to be able to get the URL and the file name of the asset, right? And then we have to actually ask Imaga for the tags.
One thing though, like the webhook actually gives you the asset, right? Because this is a part of the payload. Can't we just use that?
That's true. Because I remember in our previous code bit, I actually do a query to Hygraph again to get the stuff. But we might already have it. So
the thing is, I did the same thing in my initial POC of this.
Yeah.
Like I re-queried the asset. You want to just try and use the payload that we get?
Yeah, let's see what we get from the payload. So get the image by ID. ask Imago for the tags and apply the tags in Hygraph. That's what we're doing. So I have this get asset by ID function in my other file. So let's see. So that actually does a query to Hygraph. And then what it returns is just the asset. But what I'm thinking is that this data, this is actually the whole asset.
It should be the whole asset, yeah.
Right? So we might actually...
Why don't you just do a console log here and let's see what it actually puts out?
Whoa.
Ooh, almost.
So what would be the best way to do that? Because we just disabled the thing, right?
Do you have something that can expose a local host publicly?
Not really. What I could... Let me think. What would be... What is... If there a way we can see that payload? Well, what we can do is just... I'm just going to push this up and do a console log.
Yeah,
and
that
then
works.
grab
We'll
the
just get
console, and then we
Vercel.
can use that as
Yeah.
as
But
a
then
mod.
you need to re-enable the
Yes.
webhook. Yeah. Okay.
So we're just pushing it to Vercel now to actually get all that information back. Oh,
Right.
what is this, Lo? What are you saying? We need to use the R recursive argument. Which command do you mean, Lo? Let's wait
Vercel
for
one,
Lo to
I'm gonna
reply.
guess. One thing that's kind of worth explaining here is why can't we use localhost for webhooks?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because you can use localhost for other extensions to the system, right? If you're using an app or something like that, you can easily run it locally and test it in Hygraph. For webhooks, though, it's a bit different because webhooks are not called from the interface. They're actually called from the server once an action is committed to the database.
Exactly.
So it's important to be a publicly available URL.
So what I'm doing now is going to be very cheeky. I'm going to run Vercel dev locally. But the funny thing is, when you run this locally like that, it will actually run the serverless function through Vercel.
You're just gonna get the logs
and I'm going to probably get the log in here.
Oh, that's nice.
Let's see if this magic is working. I almost lost my trail of thought because it's kind of jumping through a hoop backwards. Strangeness.
Improvisation. Winging it.
Oh yeah, I love that. All right. So this was just updated. Cool. Let's see.
Let's see the log.
Well, that's not a lot of log, is it? But we can check.
Wait. Did you enable the webhook again?
Yes, but the one thing that might be an issue is that we didn't promote this to production.
Oh, you need to promote it, yeah.
Yeah. So the URL is actually correct. Oh, here, while we wait for that, let's see what Lo has to say. So there was a comment when you were trying to open the file. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were just losing time on that silly stuff there.
Well.
Oh, and people in the comments, can you please explain why, if you want to build the smallest Next 14 project, it literally takes like minutes? There's not much going on here. Oh, it's generating static pages, though. Maybe that's why it takes a second.
Static pages for a serverless function?
Well, there's a few pages in there. All right, deploying outputs. It's not that long. 25 seconds. It's all right. Okay, now we can go to our thing, view the logs. I'm going to try again. Let's just delete this one and update again.
Technically, you could just have updated it.
Oh, I could have just changed something. You're right.
Yeah.
Did this now show us something? No, not at all. That's very interesting.
How about the online console, though?
Come on.
Could it be that Vercel just doesn't show console logs?
There it is.
All right, cool. Do we have the tags there?
So what we are getting is an alt ID. Tags are empty for now.
Cool.
Because we haven't done it.
Empty. That's fine.
And we have the file name there's a bunch of stuff here that we can actually use, right?
You can absolutely use this because this is basically the whole asset. Like this is the same thing you're gonna get when you query the system by the
Yeah,
ID.
because when I query the system, I'll show you that here. This is my backup file that I'm using as my homework. We're querying URL, file name, ID, and tags. That's
You
what
have
we're
all those
querying.
things.
And I think we actually get ID, file name. The URL is not there though.
Isn't it? Oh
No.
yeah, you're right.
Oh no, it doesn't. There's
Oh,
no way
okay.
to concatenate that together, I think.
Right. So that's the reason we
So we're
actually
gonna
query
have
this
to do the
every time.
call.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. That makes sense.
That is all right. Okay, so with that in mind, what we need to do is get the asset by ID, right?
Yep.
And so we're going to do our first query here. I'm just going to quickly copy this. So we're going to get the asset by ID, and we're just going to make a function called let me see, how does all this work? So in here, what we need to do is actually get a query like this. So the client is here. It's a GraphQL client. We're going to request something which is of the type asset, and what we need is URL, file name, ID, and tags, and we're giving it the variable ID. So it's literally just querying where the asset ID is ID. And we just received that ID, of course, from our webhook. So we're going to get an asset from this. And then we're just going to return that. And so let's see, what else do we need after that? I'm just looking at my homework again. So we have the asset. Then we need to actually get the tags from Imaga, our external service. So what we need there is the URL of the asset and the file name of the asset, because we're asking for the file name to check, hey, is this a JPEG or is this a PNG? Because if it's like a PDF or something else, it probably doesn't work. So we need to do a little bit of filtering here.
I mean, technically, you probably can still pass the whole thing to Imaga.
Yeah, and then just ignore it or something.
Yeah, but then you're gonna burn through your API requests.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
there's a limit. So.
All right, so what we need, and I'm just going to copy this lovely line of code here, and we'll just go through it. Otherwise, the writing of this code is going to take the whole stream. So I just copy pasted this. So essentially what we're doing here is, if the file name ends with JPEG, PNG, JPEG, or WebP, we will then actually do the response. We actually go for the fetch. So we go to api.imaga.com, get the tags. Niki, can you explain the threshold here?
Right. So the threshold here, I believe we want everything that has, we want every single tag that is more than 25% certain that it actually describes whatever is on the image. Because when you get those AI tagging stuff or image recognition services, they give you a level of certainty about something that describes the image, right? 100%. 100 is basically, 100% this is a cat, for example, and then it might give you 1% that this is a dog. You don't want that.
And
1%.
so we just cut it off at like everything below 25. Bye.
Pretty much.
And this URL actually comes from Hygraph. And
correct.
So this URL was not in the post from the webhook, so we've had to query it by doing this function here. So let's make this slightly cleaner and put this up here. All right, and so we're using an Imaga token. So if you make an account, you just get this token out for free from them. There you go, use it. So that's what this is, right? So we're adding an authorization up, and we get back some JSON. And we don't need this logging here now. And so essentially, if there's a result and the result actually has tags, then we say we're good to go. And if there's not a result and not tags, it just returns an empty thing here. And if the file name, it doesn't have JPEG and PNG and JPEG and WebP, it will also just return empty. So that means it will kind of just go through this function. And that's kind of it. And so once we have those tags, I wonder, do we just continue with the code, Nikki, or do we actually start, debugging a bit now and see what's coming out in the console logs?
I would argue that we need to check the console first, because this is where things normally would break.
This is very true. So
Yeah.
this essentially returns a bunch of tags, right? So this is the tags here. So how about we just console? Well, you know what we can do? Like this. Okay, this we can remove. So it's
Yeah.
essentially just grabbing whatever comes back from that update tags function, right? So we
Mhm.
can just return this. And what we return here will be that message, and that's what the API is going
Yeah,
to give us.
that works.
All right, so we have to upload this now. Oops.
I just
It
love
would have
that
been so much
mechanical
nicer if I can
keyboard.
just run this locally, man. I thought that was working.
I can tell you how you can do that.
Yeah, we can use ngrok, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
pretty
But
much.
the Vercel CLI was built for this, so I might have be missing something though.
I mean, you're just kind of
Tell
adding
me.
a couple of more minutes on the whole thing. Otherwise, it would just have been
Yeah, but
control
we're
save
only
and you're done.
31 minutes in. We're fine.
We
By
have
the way,
time.
if
Is
ever
that what you were saying? Famous last words, Tim. Famous last words.
famous last words exactly. So let's have a look at how this build is going. Okay, so we're building. The problem is I have to promote it to deployment to production also, and that is I have to do that because some sort of strange thing that's going on where my Vercel account can talk to my GitHub account, right? But this thing is on the Hygraph GitHub, and it has to be approved to go to my Vercel account to then go live. So I cannot just do a git commit and it automatically does it because I don't have the approval because we, do security well. And so we're kind of just working around it this way.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is for now. And that's, of course, not great, but it is what it is.
You should not have done that
Why not?
because you just clicked redeploy, not promote.
Oh, no, no, no. Cancel. All
There
right,
we go.
we're going to production. So
There we go.
let's go over the code while we wait a little bit, just so we can all follow. If it's a post, we grab the ID, we get the update text function with that ID. So in that function, we first have to get the asset. So we query the asset by ID, which is this function. This is just a query to Hygraph for that ID. Give us these things. Once we get that back, we're going to get the tags from Imaga with the asset URL and file name, which is this function. So we're checking for the file name. If it's one of those, then we query. And if it actually works, it returns some tags to us. If not, it just returns nothing.
I'm gonna be very controversial thing
Please tell me.
here. And what happens if I upload the WebP?
It will work.
Oh, you just thought of everything.
You didn't really expect that, did you?
I did not, even
All
though I
right.
probably rolled that.
All right. So what we're doing now is actually console logging. Oh, are we console logging? I'm just returning this, but doesn't.
Well, you have the response.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that shows in the. Oh no, do we have to do the whole upload again? Are you kidding me? That's gonna be. Oh, it's fine though.
If you commit that
Oh wait,
somewhere,
wait. I think I can do this. Yeah.
there we go. You just skipped one of the 30-second steps that we have.
Thank you, Andreas. You can see us struggle and hopefully succeed soon.
Maybe.
Maybe. Let's see if this thing that we're doing now actually gives us a production deploy directly. I don't know. We shall see. All right.
We'll see.
So while we wait for that, maybe we can just have a look at what else needs to happen, right? Even though we return this here, that's going live. We're going to check that in a sec. But once we actually have these tags, we need to apply them, right? And so we're going to have to do this. course, right now that's not working, but let's do that like this. Oh wait, can I? Okay, this is ready.
But is it a production?
Well, we have to say. Oh. Yup. Nice. Okay, we
There
just
we
did
go.
the step. That's good. Let's refresh, and we're just gonna edit this one, right?
Yeah, just give it an alt text or something.
Actually, her name is Coco. So there we go.
I would
This is
expect
Coco.
Scar, but sure.
Let's go and see if there's some logging going on. Few logs. Here we
There you
go.
go.
All right, so
Yeah.
what we just returned back is confidence of 100. It's a kitten, and a cat. I said cat in there. That's weird.
A cat and a kid.
And so with 94% certainty, this is a feline or a kitty or a young animal. All right, this is pretty cool.
And you can see it gets off the rails there once the confidence kind of gets slower and lower.
Domestic. It's curious. That's kind of fun.
Sure.
Fluffy. I can
Yeah.
get with that. So
But
you
yeah,
see,
that's why we cap it off at 25, because you can imagine what happens beneath that.
below this, it's not gonna
Yeah.
be great. No, exactly. All right, so this is pretty cool. So we just received that information. So we need to apply some of this information to our tags in Hygraph, of course. And right now that doesn't happen because we're literally just logging this stuff. Nice. Progress, I call this. So let's not return those, but actually apply the tags in Hygraph. So let me just... So this is the final return. So what we get is the original image asset tags that we already had. Imagine some tags are there, right? We need those. We need the asset ID to be able to know what to mutate in Hygraph. And we need to have the tags from Imaga to actually do all this. And so with this, I'm just going to copy the whole function again because it's pretty long to type. We just go here. Right. So we get the Imaga tags, the asset tags that already exist, and the IDs. And the ID of the thing itself. We don't need the log here. So there's a few things going on in this stuff here. So we have this should mutate flag here because sometimes if there are no tags or they don't match our threshold or there's whatever, we don't actually send the mutation to Hygraph because it's yet another call. If we don't have anything to tag, we don't actually do that at all. And you can see here, we've set a threshold for 70. And what that means is when we go here, everything above 70 is what we're going to add. Because we could do more, but do we need cute? That's kind of, it might be cute and it might be a pet and it might be domestic, but I feel like above 70 is the best and we don't need too many tags. But that's just my opinion. We could make this 60 and see what happens. And so we're looping, sorry?
I would go with 50, to be honest. Let's go
50
wild.
It is. So we loop over the tags, and if the confidence is the same or higher than the threshold, and the tags don't already exist in the original image, then we're going to, in the original image tags, push that new one. And then we say, yes, you are allowed to mutate. And then here we say, well, if we're allowed to mutate, well, not that's only here, but let's set up the mutation for if that will happen. So what we're doing is we're adding asset tags for the ID of the image with the following tags that are an array of strings, right? So we update an asset, and the data is the tags. And these tags are actually these asset tags here. And then for ID, asset ID that we got from the payload. And then we just fire it off if we're allowed to mutate. And then with this one, we can remove. And then it just says success, because why not? We have to return something. Or we might not even have to, but I'm doing it anyways. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the tags that exist. And if the Imaga tags are actually above the threshold and not in the currently existing ones, then we just push it into the existing one. So the existing tags lists get bigger. and which means we always overwrite all the tags, essentially, just for it's the easiest way to do it, essentially. So if the original one, like, and that's why this works, right? When we go here and we say the original tag is Coco. So we can actually see, oh, this one is not turned on right now. Here's Coco. So this is the original tag that I just typed in myself. So when we go to the code, that thing that I typed in is in here. So this is an array of one thing. This might be 10 of them. Of course, if it's the same, we're not going to do it. If it's new, it's not in there, we're going to just push it in there and then upload all of them again. So this query or this mutation is actually sending Coco again and just overwrites it. That's what this is, right, Niki?
Pretty much. And honestly, it's the only way you can do that, right? You can't
It's a
dynamically
little
read.
crude, but it's at least
It
this
is.
the data will always be good this way.
Yes, absolutely.
And so once this push happens, which means something is different, we can mutate. So if we can mutate, go. If not, we just return whatever it is. And so we're sending a mutation, and the variables are actually, by the way, this doesn't look great, right? It's just text now. What we can actually do is
Pretty
this.
much.
We can actually do
Ooh.
some fun stuff. What we can do is this. And this just types it. So now this now actually makes a lot more. It looks a little bit better. Let's do
It
that
looks a
here
lot
too.
better, actually.
Yeah. So this is just a little trick. So now it's actually readable. All right. So this stuff should. Let me just look at my homework because I think this is basically it.
That should be it.
Okay. How about we just push this to production and see if it works? Kids,
Cool.
don't do it this way. But for live streaming, it's perfect.
Yeah. There's only one thing that I would change in the whole code base.
Okay,
Like if you
I'll go back there.
Visual
Tell
Studio
me.
Code. Yeah, okay. And this is exactly what we need, the post function here. So basically what you're currently doing is you're getting the whole request, you're getting the ID from the thing.
Yeah.
You're pretty much doing the update tags, and then you're returning the response, right?
Exactly.
Now, in this case, that's cool because the whole thing doesn't take that long, right? But in some cases, you might use a webhook for something that will take a long time.
Yes.
Say trigger a build or do something like that. In those cases specifically, it's always better for you to first respond that you've gotten the webhook, then do whatever you want with that.
Okay.
So essentially, you need to send out the response first.
So, but if I do a return first, then it doesn't work anymore.
True.
Like if I did this, this wouldn't work.
This is the point where I need to check my homework.
Yeah, so essentially this is a problem when you use a serverless function. If this thing takes longer than 10 seconds, this serverless function is just going to say, nope, that's too long, not going to happen. So if you need to do specific stuff, step, and then send something back or do something else, maybe a serverless function is not the way. But essentially the thing we're doing now, they're all kind of async things. Like, well, not like these things do depend on each other, but we don't really care about this result because the result is literally going to be success. So we kind of could fire this off and not do this, to be fair.
True.
Right, in this one. By the way, are we deployed?
We should be.
Yes.
There you go.
Look in this deploy. We're going to go for our logs. All right, so let's go back to Coco because we only have Coco in there now, right? Let's save. So we did an update now. So now this webhook should have fired again. So we should soon see some logs here, but it takes a second for these logs to refresh because I have a free account. There we go. And now it just says success because that's what's returned, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's refresh this page and see where we are. And now we have Coco, kitten, cat, feline, kitty, young mammal. All right. Animal, cute, pet, domestic. That's kind of like, this is why I put it to 70. I think this is
Yeah.
kind of a lot. You know what I mean? But let's just go back to the. Oh, yeah, this guy is dead again, of course, because I just did a deploy. Let's just go and localhost run this thing and have a look. There is
There
Coco.
you go.
And somehow.
You need to publish.
Ah, yes. So, just for people to know why this is happening, um, I'm querying published content. And this is not published yet. Because that's one of those things you want to consider. If you have other systems changing the data on your project or on your own data, you don't want that to just be published. Like, you need to have a bit of control there, unless you're fully sure, of course. Ah, there we go. Right. So that is kind of a lot. But what we can do now is actually go to these cats and then up, because they don't have that much.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to update a bunch of them and see what all these tags will be. They're going to get a bunch more now for sure.
Oh yeah.
We're kind of sending a lot of webhooks to this system. So,
well, load testing and production. Come on, what could go wrong?
Nothing can go wrong. Oh,
There
I'm
we go.
saying I should not be saying these things. But look, there's already 4 that work pretty well. That's nice.
I see no errors there.
I see no errors whatsoever. All right, so let's go back to Titan. You see, there's a
There you
lot
go.
more here now. And then the one.
There you go.
This is
Did
the
the
20
waterfall-
megabyte one.
Yeah, did the waterfall
Look
actually...
at that.
There we go. We finally have waterfall there.
Finally
True.
waterfall, exactly. And then the last one, this one. Okay, so can we just hit publish all those?
Yeah.
Up, there we go. And I'll go back here. We have a
And now
ton
you-
of those now. And so we have Titan. We have Coco. Do we have Coco? No, apparently
Maybe
not.
it's Coco with the...
I don't know. I don't see. I see
Interesting.
Coco though. Where is Coco?
The first one.
Oh, interesting. This is a
Huh.
bug in my code. Let's not worry about this. Young mammal. Oh, there's really bugs in my code.
I
Look,
know why.
I
Yeah.
am not considering spaces and stuff. Oh, maybe
No.
it's a capital and shit. That must
Yeah.
be it. Okay. This is my demo code. We made this like in a really short time, but the concept is there, right? And well, let's see how many times this was hit. Only 62 out of 1,000. That's not too bad.
That's with
And
the testing
so,
beforehand. Keep that in mind.
I think we've done it. And
I think so
if
too.
we can do it in a stream of 1 hour with homework of 1 hour, you can do it too, I would say. This is not the craziest stuff. So, are there any questions other than, well, this one I can try to answer. Can you show us how to connect your doorbell with Hygraph? My doorbell has the internet. So if my doorbell could send a webhook, I could actually upload a picture of me to the internet, to Hygraph, I think. But I don't think you'll want that.
Wait, can you automate the doorbell DevRel to kind of upload videos automatically with Hygraph?
Well, if my doorbell was part of a botnet, definitely. But I don't think it is. So I don't think I can hook into that.
Well, the topic for the next live stream.
Exactly. So we have a bunch of people watching. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask us. If not, Niki, do you have any last comments on this? Are there any like real use cases that you might want to put this on or anything?
Oh, you specified. I was about to say live long and prosper. Come on.
Oh no. Yeah, that was my
No.
bad.
Too bad. No, I mean, this is an extremely powerful way to operate with your data in Hygraph, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the use case that we just showed was images, but it can be much more than that. One of the use cases I've actually discussed recently with a customer was in the realm of video, right? They wanted to
Mhm.
create auto captions for their video clips when they
Oh,
upload them in
wow.
Hygraph. And again, it's the exact same thing. You pretty much give the URL to the video to a service that actually does that for you, and
Yeah.
it gives you the captions in a format that you can then save in the system. You can do the same thing with documents. You can do the same thing with content models themselves, right? The sky is the limit. It's
Yeah.
an extremely
Exactly.
powerful tool to enhance the way you experience your data. And it's both for the front end, as Tim showed, the way you classify the images
Yeah.
in different tags, but it can also really facilitate the usage of the CMS on the back end for the editorial team, because then they'll be able to look for images much easier than they were before, right?
Exactly.
So it's a very, very powerful tool that you can have in your quiver, and I would strongly suggest you use it.
Yeah. This is kind of the way we connect things in a modern architecture, right?
Pretty much.
Because
Yeah.
let's say I want to do a spell check on my website. What I can do is when I hit publish or I hit save on a draft, I can fire a webhook to some system that then queries that, looks for all my spelling mistakes and makes a report and emails it to it or puts it in Slack. And
And
then,
then you
or
get fired. Perfect.
and then you get fired. Or it could block a publish action when like a bad word is in there. Or you can fire off things like a lighthouse speed test. Like
Yeah.
there's so much stuff you can do with this. Like we even have like a Netlify and a Vercel integration where this essentially just sends a webhook to Vercel and says, now publish this thing.
Yeah.
And we did it by hand now because we're nerds. But you can also set up all those things with webhooks, like all the systems that need to be notified for a new publish. Like you can actually send to a Microsoft Teams message based on a webhook that you
Yeah.
just updated the thing. Like there's so many. Anyways, if you want to learn more about all this stuff, you can go to hygraph.com/docs. And a lot of stuff here is described on how these webhooks work, but also how these queries work and mutations. And of course, if that's not enough, you can come on Slack and ask us. Because this was some specific stuff we were dealing with here. And like the concepts, I'm assuming most people get them. But once you start working the nitty gritty when it happens and you're like, hey, why does this mutation not work? Then you probably want to ask Niki or me, and then you can come in Slack and ask. And there's one last thing. You see, I'm going over our CTAs because we're almost at the end. All the stuff you saw today is on a free account. You can just do all this stuff for free. So you can just go to app.hygraph.com and sign up to actually make that account and just try it out. I guess that's it for today. Niki, thank you for helping me with this because I'm a nightmare at coding live, and it felt like it kind of worked today. It's
I
nice.
honestly didn't do anything. Come on. It was all you, buddy.
It's all about the support, man.
Moral support.
Exactly. All right. Cheers, everyone. Happy
All right.
coding and
Cheers,
see you
guys.
next time. Bye.